Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. So on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. That's right, Paul's back, and he's bringing you everything you could possibly need from a football podcast. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we're probably covering some Middlesbrough football. There's probably some Hartlepool in there. There's probably all manner of other football-related topics coming your way right now. Whew! Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. You know the one though, the best one. Share that podcast around. If you like the football, you're here because you like the football. Send it to somebody else. You know people that like football. They'll like this. Simples. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to week 3? Yeah, week 3 of the CookieCast Podcast Network's Middlesbrough and Hartlepool-based podcast. Early apologies for those of you watching on YouTube. Every time I turn this way to the camera, you will notice the glare on the specs. I will strive to have a solution for this for next week, and I will get a better setup, I promise. So, week 2's predictions. Let's go through those games and look at how we did. So, we started off with Middlesbrough 2, Lincoln City 1. That's correct, Borough got a win in their opening championship game of the season. They'd made a couple of changes from the game against Wrexham in the Cup, the first of which came for a debut for Radek Vitek in goal, a full debut for Kyle Joseph alongside Will Lancashire at the top, and a surprising start for Kante in midfield alongside Seb Berhalter. Had played a little bit of pre-season, but hadn't really had much game time, so it was a bit of a surprise to see him start the league game against Lincoln. And unfortunately for him, he was a bit overrun in the midfield. It wasn't really his strongest game, sadly, and it wasn't to say that it was him that was a mistake. It was at fault for the first goal. But it was Lincoln that took the lead. In the 12th minute, it was a long ball upfield by the Lincoln goalkeeper. Found a Lincoln head in the box. His little cushioned back header found its way into the path of the right back, Darikwa, who looked up and spotted that Adam Reach was approaching from left back, and his ball picked him up perfectly just on the edge of the box, and he smashed the ball inside Vitek's far right-hand post. Nothing Vitek could have done about it. A very, very good finish from Adam Reach, and I should have known, as he started his career at the Borough, had a number of years in the first team, so should have known really that he was going to come back to bite the team in the arse, as the old boy rule was definitely very much in effect. So yes, 1-0 Lincoln, very much well deserved from how they started the game. They were very much the better team for the opening 10-15 minutes, and that kind of kicked Borough into gear. The first real chance they had came via Kyle Joseph. He found himself in the penalty area following a cutback from Neto Borges on the left hand side. His snapshot from just outside the 6-yard box brought a smart save from the Lincoln goalkeeper to put the ball out for a corner. Nothing came from the resulting corner, sadly. And Borough just continued to chip away, trying to get themselves back in the game. They were unable to, going into half-time, so it was 0-0. And as the teams came out for the second half, it was more of the same. Borough setting the tempo, setting the press, and their press and their intensity was rewarded just after the hour mark. Callum Britton's ball in from the right-hand side was flicked away by Lincoln Head, but only into the path of Leo Castledine on the left-hand side. His first-time effort on the volley took a flick off Dariqua, who was the guy who had made the assist for the opener for Lincoln, and found its way into the path of Will Lancashire, who was unmarked just on the edge of the 6-yard box. He couldn't really miss. Stabbed home to make it 1-1. Lincoln thought they'd retaken the lead in the 83rd minute of the game, only for the goal scorer Aloafe to wheel away in the jubilant celebrations to see the linesman's flag correctly raised for an offside decision. He was ever so slightly ahead of the last defender on the edge of the 6-yard box, so his diving header was 4-0, unfortunately. Will Lancashire, on his one-man attempt to be Borough's saviour this season, almost dug out a second a few minutes after Lincoln thought they'd taken the lead. The ball fell to him in a very crowded penalty area, and he managed to sort of adjust his feet and dig out a curling effort that was going towards the top corner, the top left-hand corner. Just a little too much on it, and it clipped the angle of post and bar, bounced down, and the onrushing Miles Pert-Harris, on for his debut in the second half, was only able to smash the rebound clean over the bar from 6 yards out. So it looked as if Borough were going to be frustrated and not come away with the 3 points on the opening day of the season. But their persistence paid off in the 91st minute, so the first minute of injury time. Ball into the right-hand channel, found Riley McGree, who tripped and turned his way past the Lincoln defence. He drove down the byline, spotted that Lancashire was making a dart towards the near post. Little tidy ball just along the deck for Lancashire to come onto, and his little lift over the goalkeeper from just inside the post meant that Borough got a 2-1 win to start their season positively. Predictions-wise, I don't have anyone to take predictions from because it's just me doing the podcast this season. Excuse me. So, predictions-wise, I had gone for a 3-0 Middlesbrough win. So technically I did get the right number of goals in the game. Sadly, I didn't have one for Lincoln, so I didn't have the reach goal. But I did have 2 Will Lancashire goals. So I'm very happy to say that, pat on the back for me, if I was giving out points, that would be very much a point to start the season. Sadly I'm not, because I'm just doing it on my own, so only playing against myself. Watching the habit of a lifetime ball. Second game of the week saw Hartlepool travel down to just outside London, Berkshire, I think, to play Aldershot. So it was Aldershot versus Hartlepool United, and this was 2 teams going in with they had won their first game, so it was a 100% record against 100% record from one game, granted. And it was actually Aldershot that had the better of the first half from the highlights that we saw. A couple of chances for either side, mainly, like I say, mainly Aldershot. I remember Max Coogan firing one over from close range, never really tested the goalkeeper. The left winger for Aldershot had a couple of mazy runs down the left-hand side, cut inside, flashed one just wide of Max Merrick's goal, never really in any danger. Another one where was cutting through the Pool's defence and fired straight at Merrick. Tame shot that kind of dribbled along the ground and was easily saved. So yeah, it was a bit of a non-event first half, and it was goalless at the break. Pools did make a switch at half time, similar to the one that they'd done against Barrow the week previous, and it was the right back, J. Ben off, Neo Eccleston on. We'll come back to Mr. Eccleston later in the game. Pools drew the first real big save from either goalkeeper in around the 69th minute as a ball in from the left-hand side found Will Harris with a snapshot. And former Pools goalkeeper Nick Hayes, who now finds himself in the Aldershot goal, very, very smartly saved, got a big strong hand to it to push it away outside of the box. However, the ball was picked up by Brooklyn Ilunga just on the right hand side of the box. He shifted it back onto his left hand side and whipped a ball in for the stooping Corey McEwen to score his first goal in Hartlepool United colours with a lovely little diving, stooping header back into the back of the net to make it 1-0 to Pools. Aldershot obviously then were tasked with doing the majority of the running to try and get back into the game, and they were rewarded with a penalty in the 89th minute. A lovely 1-2 with Basil Tuma and another member of the Aldershot team whose name I couldn't quite work out. Released him down the left-hand side. He carried the ball into the box, drew a challenge from Neo Eccleston, and the ref judged that he didn't get the ball, came across his man a little bit too quickly, clipped him. Man goes down, penalty spot. Here we go. One-time poolie Marcus Dinanga steps up to take the penalty kick, and that name should be fairly familiar for people who watched the podcast last week, as he was one of my predictions for goal scorers last week. So I was licking my chops, so to speak, when he picked up the ball, stuck it on the penalty spot, stepped back, deep breath, and blazed it about 10 feet into the sky. A truly, truly awful penalty. I don't really know what he's tried to do. He's obviously tried to just put his laces through it, and he's just overcooked it by, a good 10 feet. Like I say, it was not one to write home about, shall we say. So yes, no go into the goal for the Aldershot penalty, and Pools hung on for a 1-0 win. So it's 2 games, 2 wins for Pools, keeping their 100% record intact. And they're actually yet to concede in the league, no less. So yes, a very positive week, a couple of opening weeks for Hartlepool United. I had gone for a 2-1 Pools win. I did have Dinanga to score for Aldershot. I had Harris and Popov to score for Pools, so no McEwen goal, but I did have wins for both Borough and Pools on my docket, so big pat on the back for Mr. PW there. That's the week 2 games gone through. As we said last week, no transfer news to report for Hartlepool United, and Lee Clark has actually come out this week and done an interview where he says he feels that they are happy with their transfer business for the summer, unless something comes up that is either too good an opportunity to pass on, or they get an injury before the end of the transfer window and they need to replace the player. So they're fairly happy that they've done their transfer business, and they're looking to the January and next summer's transfer windows now. Wouldn't be surprised if a loan comes in just for some squad depth when the Premier League teams announce their 25-man squads, which normally comes, I think, after the transfer window closes, and then the loan window opens up for teams outside of the Football League. So we'll watch that space, and we'll see if Pools bring in any players there. From a Borough perspective, not too busy, but there have been a couple of outgoings and 1 incoming this week. So we'll do the outgoings first, as obviously they won't be connected to the club any longer. The first of which is Seny Dieng has left the club. His contract has been terminated by mutual agreement. He's joined Greek side Atromitos on a free transfer now that he's a free agent. He joined Borough from Queen's Park Rangers 3 seasons ago, and he made 52 appearances in total. Was always a fairly steady goalkeeper, nothing too flashy, nothing to really write home about. He did the job. He made some good saves. Never really nailed down the number one position for more than the season that he was first in the club for. Had an injury towards the end of his second season with the club. So they had to bring in Mark Travers as the lone goalkeeper from Bournemouth, I believe it was at the time. He played the majority of games in the second half of the season. Yeah, bit of a shame, but they obviously signed a new goalkeeper that's much younger. They think much better. So it didn't really make sense to keep him on the books and keep paying him his money. So obviously they've agreed to terminate his contract. He's now got a new club, so he goes with everyone's best wishes. And another exit, this time on a loan basis, is forward Sonch Hansen, who's joined Gaziantep FK in Turkey on a season-long loan. So Hansen was signed last season from Nek Nijmegen of the Netherlands. Only played 20 games last season. Another one similar to Kali Sen from the previous week, where was brought in. Big things were expected of him. He was pacey, tricky. I think he came with a decent reputation in Holland as being quite the flashy operator. Never really worked out from the Borough, sadly. So he's going to go out on loan for a season. We'll see if he comes back and gets reintegrated within the squad once he's had his loan deal. Personally, I would be very surprised if he does. I wouldn't at all be surprised if he's now moved on and has a new club from next season. So those are the outgoings. The incoming is a new centre-half, and this was actually announced on the morning of the Lincoln game, and I believe he was introduced to the fans around 5 to 10 minutes before the kick-off against Lincoln. So it's defender Ashley Phillips, who's joined on a permanent deal for 5 years, 5-year deal from Tottenham Hotspur. He's a 21-year-old who started his career at Blackburn. He's been on loan at Stoke for the past 2 seasons, so probably played against Borough on a couple of occasions whilst he was at Stoke. Very, very highly rated. Excuse me. Currently an England under-21 international. The fee is undisclosed, as seems to be the case with most Borough transfers these days. But I believe it was reported as being close to double digits in terms of the overall package. Some rumours that it's something in the range of 7 million up front, with more to come in line with promotion or decent cup run if he gets in the England team, etc., etc. I imagine in the same way that with the Lancashire deal, Spurs will have inserted a sell-on clause and a fee matching deal. So should someone come in with an offer for Phillips or Lancashire in the future, Borough would be obligated to at least notify Spurs that they've had the bid made, and should they choose to accept it, Spurs will be offered the chance to match the bid and then go from there. That is different from the club agreeing a pre-agreed purchase back fee, which means that if that is in place, should they choose to want to bring the player back, they can just come to the Borough with the agreed money, and the transfer will go through should the player agree personal terms as well. The matching thing puts the ball entirely in Borough's court, because obviously if they get an offer from a club and they choose not to accept it, they don't have to then notify Tottenham of the fact they've accepted a bid, and they can keep the player. So we'll be interested to see how he does. Unfortunately, he's I think he is injured at the moment, so he is not in the shape that he's going to be able to come in and play straight away. He's going to need a couple of weeks to get used to the team. So I would be surprised at this point if we see him before the first international break of the season. So it may be a case of use the next couple of weeks to get him up to speed, use the training sessions to get him used to the way the team plays, and we'll probably see him after the first international break later on this year. So there you have it. That is all of the transfer ins and outs done, which just leaves us with predictions for week 3. And there's 3 games this week. We have a league game for Hartlepool, a league game for Middlesbrough, and then the second round of the League Cup to go through. So, first game of the week takes place on 12:30 on Saturday, and it is Sutton United versus Hartlepool United. There are a couple of old boys in the Sutton United team that used to play for Hartlepool United, and I've gone for them both to score a goal. Jermaine Francis and Sam Folarin, both wingers, both played last season. Francis was actually sold midway through the season when the manager was changed from Simon Grayson to Nicky Featherstone. It became quite apparent that he didn't really fit in with the way that Featherstone wanted to play, wanted to set up. So Pools cashed in their chips, took some money for him, and he went to Sutton United. Folarin's a slightly different one. He was released at the end of last season, and he was picked up by Sutton United. So has been playing there since the start of the season. I think it's inevitable that they'll probably both score. So we will see. So I've gone for those two to score. And then I've gone for an opening goal for Pools each for Popov and Ilunga. I've liked what I've seen with Ilunga so far. He looks like he's pacey. Likes to beat a man and get a cross in. So let's hope he can turn some assists that he's had recently into goals. So for those of you keeping score, that is a 2-2 draw, Sutton versus Hartlepool. Next game takes us to 3 p.m. and is Blackburn Rovers versus Middlesbrough. Blackburn's a strange one. I have said on the podcast for a number of years that Blackburn at the Riverside is a game that never seems to produce anything positive from a Borough perspective. They've had an FA Cup loss there. I think in the last couple of seasons, the best they've had is draws. Blackburn away is slightly better, but it's still not a ground where they have a great overall record. So, I've actually gone for a 1-1 draw here. And of course, not forgetting, Blackburn are currently managed by Tony Mowbray, ex-Borough legend from a playing and managing perspective. So, wouldn't be surprised if Blackburn sit in and try and frustrate Borough, and we'll see where we go from there. I've gone for Johnson to score for Blackburn. He scored against Wolves on the first day of the season and did very well. I'm going for Castledine to score for the Borough. That just leaves us with the midweek game next week, taking place on Tuesday, and it's a repeat of last season's first round Carabao Cup game, where Doncaster came to the Riverside and absolutely pummeled Borough by 5-0. So Borough will obviously be looking for a small mark of revenge for that big pasting. And as such, I've gone for a Borough 3-1 win. I think there will be changes. I think he'll potentially use some of the younger players that are on the fringes of the first team to see what they've got and whether there can be an option to be brought off the bench in some of the league games. So I've gone for Alfie May to score for Doncaster. And then I've gone for a goal apiece for Kyle Joseph, Finn Cartwright, who seems like he could be the next cab off the rank from a attacking midfield perspective, can play anywhere across the sort of the people in behind the striker. Looked very good in a pre-season friendly against Espanyol, so I wouldn't be surprised if he plays in this game to sort of get him some minutes, see how he gets on. And I've also gone for a first goal in Borough colours for Cruz eBay, a young forward who was tearing it up in the under-18 squad last season. Was on the bench for a number of games last season. Actually came on in the playoff final after McBurney had scored when Borough were desperately trying to get back into the game with a late goal. I think he will be used more and more this season to get him used to the rigours of first team football. He actually came on in the dying minutes of the Carabao Cup game against Wrexham, and it was noticeable for the fact that he came on without the main shirt sponsor on his jersey, as he is under 18, so therefore is not allowed to promote gambling on his jersey. So that was an interesting thing to look out for. So yes, so I've gone for a 3-1 Middlesbrough win. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of week 3 from the football podcast for you right here at Cookie Towers. Thank you as always for tuning in, for watching, for listening. If you're new around here, welcome. I'm so glad you found us. If you like all things Hartlepool and Middlesbrough, we'll keep you covered for the remainder of the season. If you like Hartlepool and Middlesbrough, but also Formula One or wrestling, we've also got those covered right here on the podcast network. And then of course Mr. Cook, the leader, the kingpin, the lynch man, as it were, has his Darkest Timeline podcast where he will take you through the deepest reaches of his mind and tell you what's going on in the world of tech and film and games and whatnot. Well worth a listen if you are at a loose end. So there we have it. Plenty to be going on with, plenty in the back catalogue. We appreciate your follows, your shares, your listening ears and watching eyes. All is appreciated right here. Join me next week where we'll go through those 3 games. We'll look forward to some predictions for week 4 and potentially week 5, as I may not be here in a couple of weeks' time as I'm off on my jollies. So I may do a bumper episode next week. Or record 2 and send them for upload at different times. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And in the meantime, I'll say thank you and tatty bye for this evening.
There we go, what do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being here. Before you leave us, please do consider to like, share, subscribe and comment. It's only a click of a button away. You can support the podcast, you can support the channel, you can support us here at CookieCast by clicking a few simple buttons. And you'll be one of the crew. Also, check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. Drop us a line, say hi, all of that good stuff. Never know, we might say hi back. There we go, that's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.